Hello there, friends. Welcome to another Props from the Past. We're doing a video that Brittany made quite a while ago. It was actually a commission project. Let me see if I can find out the date that we put this out. But this was a commission.
Yeah.
Someone hired us. This was 2015, December 2015, 5 years ago.
Wow. I was gonna guess 4 years ago. I was close.
So this was the year you quit your job.
Yeah, my day job. And I started helping you with commissions and getting the Foamsmith book printed.
Right,
Yeah.
right. The 2014 was the last time I opened up prop work for commission, and it took me like 2 years to get through all of those. And one of them was this helmet that Brittany made, and of course we made a video for it. So why don't we load it up, dive right in, and get ready to see what it was like 5 years ago.
I will say before we start the video, so this is the Bleach hollow mask, and what I remember from recording, this wasn't my first video I did on my own. Right before this I did the Talos amulet, the pewter one, when we were doing our 3D printing series.
That's right.
Yeah, but this was like my first big project video on my own where I talked to the camera and had to do my own script, and then I edited it all by myself. And the two things I remember from that project were I was trying to use a teleprompter because I wasn't sure how I was supposed to read and talk to the camera. Like, I couldn't understand how Bill was so good at it. Like, I was like, you just say things and look at the camera? So I remember being like nervous and the teleprompter wasn't working right. So I'm staring at the camera, like trying to look at this teleprompter. But like with the parts where we would do B-roll, I could just like look at a script or look at the teleprompter. I didn't have to look at the camera. But like that's like a whole skill to learn. And that's a system we never adopted. I just got better at like looking at my written printed out script and then saying it to the camera a couple of times and then taking the best take. Like I understand that now, but at the time I was like, I don't know, I guess I thought I had to do it all in one take. Yeah. And I didn't do any practicing beforehand, so.
And now we don't do that at all. We just film ourselves live, and whatever spills out of our mouth is what goes in the video.
And the other thing I remember is I finished the edit and I remember showing it to you and you were like, yeah, it's good enough. You'll get better in the future. And I remember thinking like, wonder how I could do it better. So I'm really, like, I haven't watched this in years. I probably rewatched it once, but I'm curious to see how my editing is because I've gotten much better.
Yes, you have. You've put a lot of work and practice in editing.
Yeah, just a lot of time.
Yeah. All right, here we go. So dramatic.
This project turned out really well.
Yeah, it's got a real presence.
Still haven't made one for myself.
We still have the molds.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, I'm Brittany Duran from Punished Props.
Sander.
In this episode of Prop Shop, we're going to show you how
I forgot for our little...
That was your title?
Yeah, for our little... We had a couple of them. One of them was Cat Petter, I think. Yep. Yeah, oh, that was fun.
This is, of course, in the basement.
Made Ichigo's hollow mask from the show Bleach. This hollow mask is the version that covers his whole head, and it's the inverted color version that's seen later in the series. We use lots of tools and techniques for this video, and all that information is linked in the description below. Let's get started.
Yeah.
The hollow mask template was modeled in the 3D program Maya.
Oh, Maya, how I miss you.
We went to school for computer art. It was our major, and we spent most of our time working in Maya. Doing 3D modeling and rigging and texturing and animation.
It's like whatever program you learn first is like your comfort program. And Maya is not like user-friendly when you open it. Like there's just a million controls, and it's changed over time. It's so like, even I'll open a new version of Maya and not know what to do. But I mean, basically with polygon modeling is, if you think of it like a wire mesh, and you get to control where all of the wires go, and you move them around by moving the kind of the intersections of the wires together. Those are the vertices. So it's basically just vertice pushing.
And it's a lot of it.
Right. Yeah. It's like sculpting with take backsies. And it's such a low polygon thing that it doesn't get all lumpy and weird because you get to control how many vertices are in it. Yeah, you can already tell in the eyebrow. There's too many there.
It gets a little lumpy. Now,
too many.
I do Fusion. Now I'm much more comfortable with Fusion, but if you want to do Papakura, if you want to model something for Papakura, polygon modeling like Maya or Blender or 3D Studio, That's going to translate to Pepakura much better if you have a polygon model.
Yeah, because you don't have all of those fine curves, the really fine mesh.
Ever since we started doing lots of 3D printing, though, we've kind of abandoned Pepakura.
This project, we did not have a 3D printer.
We didn't.
We did not have
This is a
one.
great way to get correct proportions
So
and size.
our printers are
Any 3D
under
modeling
5 years
software
old.
can work for this method. The eye holes and jaw were adjusted to fit an average-sized human head. Teeth were added, and the jaw hinge was tested. This model will be turned into
a really nice looking
papercraft
model.
template.
Thank you.
Supports were modeled in to keep the paper
I had
template.
a lot of similar problems to Bill in the Vash's Stampede gun, where it's from anime, and the helmet changes from shot to shot.
Oh, yeah.
So I had some to take some my own liberties to it. I will say that the whole thing I did pretty narrow, and that made the whole assembly challenging. So if I was going to do it again, I would make it wider, but it does look really cool.
It does look good.
Aligned. After modeling, the mask got imported
this music.
into Pepakura Designer.
This is Bill music.
This program flattens the 3D model
That's actually
for printing on cardstock
is this
paper.
the Katamari song by Andrew?
Yeah.
When unwrapping a model
Yeah.
in Pepakura
Yeah.
Designer, think of where you want the seams. I like to separate the pieces into strips. The more planning you do now, the less cutting and gluing you'll do later. It's time for the fun part of gluing tons of pieces of paper together.
Mm-hmm.
Super glue is applied to the paper flap.
What were you,
then
what were
held
you
in place
timing?
for a few
I believe I
seconds.
did a time lapse.
This process
Oh, there
is
you go.
repeated a
Yeah.
couple hundred times. We have
Tell you
an
what, someday I'll do a giant metal sculpture and I'll do it like Pepakura, right? Because you
Yeah.
could totally feed this into a cutter,
Like a
metal cutter,
like a plasma cutter.
Plasma cutter. There we
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
And cut out a giant metal sculpture that way and bend it along the edges and weld it together.
I think
That'd
Fusion
be
even
super fun.
has like a metal bending thing now.
Awesome.
Yeah,
more details on the process of papercraft linked below.
it's so much work.
If you're using super glue, keep uncured super glue remover on hand.
It's a good tip.
I may have glued myself to the paper a few times.
That happens to me when
The
I
paper
do.
bake?
Oh, you really went ham on that forehead there.
Yeah, that's every once in a while someone asks me for the files for this, and I haven't released them because I would not want to put someone through this. Also, it's not that great of a model when you start to look down at it. Like I would want to refine it. And
Yeah.
I'm never going to take the time for that.
No.
But one of the things I didn't go over in this video was, you notice I was barehanded when I was working with the Pepakura pieces. I quickly switched to gloves for the rest of the build, and that worked really well so that the super glue didn't stick to my fingers because it wouldn't stick to the gloves. And so that was great. And I also switched to using a respirator because this was around the time when I was learning that you don't want to have a lot of super glue fumes around you in a small enclosed space. It can start to irritate your lungs and it can sting your eyes. So I got a lot safer as I went along with this project because it was a lot of gluing.
Yeah.
This is complete.
You can tell I use PVA glue.
Oh yeah.
It just takes
Fiberglass
not as
too
resin
quick.
long.
was brushed onto the paper until it soaked through. The inside of the mask got backed with more resin and fiberglass cloth.
Ah, it's so much work.
We still have all
Since
these
the fiberglass
pieces
wouldn't
too.
fit in the
Yeah.
horns, I slushed in some Smooth Cast 300 resin. The fiberglass cloth and sharp edges of the mask were removed with a rotary tool. Mask pieces got test fit along the way.
Yeah, those teeth never fit up. Again, there's no way. There's too
All
much
the
movement.
surfaces were smoothed with sandpaper. Body
Lots of
filler was spread
Bondo.
over the exterior.
Learned
The
a lot
polygon
about
flat areas got filled in to bring back the curved shape.
I learned a lot about body
The
filler.
body
This-
filler used is
this
Bondo, which works
progress
great
then.
for filling in large areas. For filling in small gaps, I should have used Evercoat, which is easier to sand and creates less air pockets.
Or a nicer kind of Bondo.
Instead, several layers of Bondo were applied between sanding. Primer was sprayed on during
Oh gosh,
filling.
that cuts out so much work.
Yeah. We really gotta jump forward.
The stage where it was covered in Bondo like a frosting on a cake, I left it at that stage for weeks. Like I just didn't touch it because it got to the point where it wasn't fun.
Yeah.
We weren't using good quality sandpaper, I think, too. So it was like I would just sand it a little bit, and then the sandpaper wouldn't be effective anymore, and I wouldn't know. Like there were so many. I just spit on you. Sorry. There's just so many things I wasn't aware of. Just like little things like that that I now know that would make this project so much faster. Well, one, I would 3D print it. Now that we have 3D printers.
But even if you made it in Peppercura today, you'd still do it a lot differently.
Totally.
Yeah.
Sanding. After a few layers of primer, I switched colors. This helps highlight all the low spots that need filling. The horns didn't fit perfectly in the sockets.
Of course they
So I
didn't.
used the Bondo squish method to
This is a
fill in
good
the
method.
gaps.
Bill taught me
Bondo was
this.
spread in the horn
And I learned
sockets.
it from Matt Munson.
The horns were pressed into place and held until the paste started to set. When the body filler became tacky, the horn got removed, leaving a snug fit.
Snug.
Snug.
Body filler generates a lot of dust, so wear your respirator and work near a running vacuum hose. Gaps in the teeth were carved with a needle file.
So much
The
detail
top
work.
edge of the horns got sanded flat to match the reference. Lines for the paint details were sketched on the mask. A trench was slowly carved with a file. Don't mess up. Everything got primed again and then wet sanded with a fine grit sandpaper. We could be almost done, but this helmet is a mixed media project.
I will say one of the things I'm noticing with the edit, and this is just a personal preference, when I do cuts, like those jump cuts where it's just me doing different takes, I try and make the cut so that when I start talking again is where the cut happens. So instead of being like, talk, 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 and then there's a cut and then there's silence and then talk, 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 it seems like the cut's much less noticeable when it happens when the talking starts. And I don't know if anyone else ever notices this but me, but it's just something I do now. So I'm looking at it like, I would have moved half a second over.
Trimmed that just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Of fiberglass, resin, and a lot of Bondo, which is pretty brittle. So we molded everything.
Of course
that
we
way
did.
it can be cast in a really sturdy plastic resin.
We really want to try a matrix
The first mold we made
for
is a
this.
matrix mold. For more information,
Was the District 9 gun before this? The big matrix mold? I think it was.
I think so. Yeah.
So this was our second matrix mold and our first helmet matrix mold too. It's a good thing to learn. We haven't really done it much since, but it's
matrix molds, check out
it's really
Bill's
cool.
District 9
Yeah,
video.
there we go.
A helmet stand was sculpted from non-sulfuric water-based clay. The whole helmet got covered in an even clay layer.
That's me. That's
Strips
my
of
old
clay
wedding
were used
ring. That's
for
before I
mold
made this one.
registration.
People just 3D
Aluminum
print their
tape marked
matrix
the
mold
seams
jackets
in the
now.
Matrix
Yeah.
mold jacket.
I could have done that.
Smooth-On's epoxy coat was brushed on the entire surface.
I believe we ran out. It ended up being a little
Fiberglass
thinner than
mat
I would have
got
wanted.
pressed into
I
the
remember
tacky
you
epoxy
saying
coat.
Frank would do thicker ones.
Oh, yeah.
And this is where you got all your tips
Epoxamite was
from.
brushed onto the fiberglass. Ideally, you want the jacket to be fairly thick, but we ran out of material, so our edges are a
remembered.
little bit brittle. Prying apart the jacket was so much fun.
It was not.
The clay layer was peeled away and cleaned off the master. Holes were drilled in different levels of the jacket.
So if you haven't seen a matrix mold before, the way it works is you have your master that you want to mold, and then you end up with a thin layer. I'm thin. That's pretty thick of silicone around it. So instead of doing a brush-on mold where you just keep brushing layers of silicone on, this creates a nice even layer of silicone over everything.
A really good durable mold.
Yeah.
And it uses just the right amount of silicone. You don't have thin spots. You don't have a big block mold that just
Yeah.
wastes a ton of silicone.
Yeah, and
it just
it-
takes a lot of
Yeah.
time. There's a lot of steps.
It registers really well, and so we're drilling holes because if you fill the filling hole, the spout at the top is where the silicone is going to go in, and you get a ton of air trapped. So you have these little bleeder holes. Yeah.
The jacket got secured to the base, leaving a void around the master.
But so yeah, that jacket you can just
Smooth-On's
3D
Womack
print
30
something
was
now.
poured into the
Make
spout.
your own, especially if you have the model for the master.
The silicone leaks out the bleeder holes, which helps evacuate air pockets. After the air escapes, the holes were blocked with clay. The next day, the clay was removed.
Go team.
You can see the empty space between the master and the jacket was filled with silicone.
We did a pretty good job.
With
Yeah.
much
There's a couple
struggling
thin
and swearing,
spots.
the jacket got pried off. A seam was cut in the back of the mold. The X-Acto knife blade has been bent into a zigzag shape, which creates registry grooves in the silicone.
You did a great job with that.
Yeah, look at
With
that.
the top half of the mask complete, it's time to mold the jaw.
Reminded about the poor lighting we had.
Yeah, I was
jaw was
gonna
a
say, it's
simpler
pretty dark in that
one-cut mold.
basement.
Silicone was
So
brushed
this
on
is
the surface with registry
another
keys
way you
added.
could do
The final
mold
layers
jacket.
of silicone were thickened with 5X. Plasti paste was applied for the mold jacket.
We wouldn't even use
The
plastic
jacket
paste
was
now.
brushed on in two
Probably use
pieces,
freeform air.
so the castings can easily be removed.
There isn't much of a lip on that jaw piece, and that needs to be slush cast. If I was going to do that again, I would do a much wider lip, and I would actually probably, instead of using like a slush cast resin, I'd probably brush in epoxy instead. We started doing that more recently. It's something you brush in and it cures instead of something you slush in, and try not to spill it all over the floor.
Each horn is a two-part mold made in the same way of the jaw. Half of the horn was covered in clay.
So much work.
Yeah.
Like the jaw mold, layers of the
to make
silicone were
the
brushed
one
onto
helmet.
the
We
mask.
Yeah.
only ever made one.
A
I
plastic
really
case
wanted to
jacket
learn
was
all this
applied.
stuff though, so this was good for me.
Silicone will fuse with itself, so add mold release. This process was repeated for the other half.
It's a good looking mold.
Ah, that great feeling when your silicone separates easily.
Something happened in this process. There are like little lumpy spots. This is out of all the molds, this is the one that had the most trouble. So I remember when I cast stuff out of that, I had some of those flat horn areas had little dips in them. So I don't know if it was when the master got put in the plastic paste, it got warm, or the casting. Actually, it might be the castings that came out of it. Maybe we'll learn in this video. But yeah, these molds didn't fare very well. I had some problems with them. I mean, it's a weird
We
shape.
have our molds, so now we can cast copies. Smooth Cast 300 was mixed with some black tint and poured into
Still
the
have that
mold.
hoodie.
So great having your
The
help
resin
with this
got
project.
slushed around, coating the entire surface. This is also called rotocasting, which means a great workout.
Sure
The
is.
next few layers were slushed in with Smooth Cast 65D, which cures faster than 300.
Yay! That's
Look
a
at
really
that.
tight seam on
After
that.
curing,
Yeah.
the cast got liberated from the mold. The horns and jaw were slush cast with the same method. The extra plastic was trimmed
Not
off
gonna
with a
show you.
blade.
My mom was watching me
The eye
during this
sockets were
part, I
freed with a
remember.
drum
She was
sanding
visiting, and
Oh.
she got to see the stuff I would do.
All
This-
the seams and screws
all this
got cleaned
cosplay
up.
mumbo jumbo. She thought it was cool.
All the pieces got coated in black primer, and the head and jaw were sprayed with a white paint. Painter's tape masked off the stripe areas. Extra tape was carefully removed.
Yeah, the white version looks cool. That's like the normal one,
All
but
the pieces
the
were
client
sprayed with
wanted
black
the
paint.
inverse.
The
Oh,
masked areas
demasking's
were then
always so
peeled
much
off.
fun.
The mask is supposed to be weathered, so a mix of acrylic paints are applied.
Well, if we did this again, we would totally seal it with some of that catalyzed,
Oh,
Light gray paint
yeah.
got dry brushed
clear
onto the
coat.
edges.
real glossy. Yeah.
The edges now stand out against the dark paint. Holes were drilled so the horns can be removed for travel.
Very clever.
Jeez, I'm working in the dark.
Nuts got permanently attached to the horns, and bolts will screw into them from the inside of the helmet.
The song, so much
Baby
cymbal.
weld was
Yeah.
used to
I tried,
adjust-
that's one of
Maybe we should have not used the drum solo part
Yeah.
of the song.
another personal preference is I try and avoid songs that have a lot of cymbals in them for background music. To me,
Yeah.
it sounds like static
Yep.
when I'm editing, and that would never fly now.
the nut bolts to the horns. Having two bolts attached keeps the horns from wiggling. The jaw was lightly held in place with T-nuts. T-nuts got JB welded into the helmet. The junction stuck out a little too far, so that got grinded
I mean,
down
at that
and
point, I
rounded
should have
over
even
with
used a
epoxy
T-nut.
I know.
There's nothing
There's
left.
nothing left.
I guess it
shapes
just
were
had a
cut
nice
and heat
grippy
formed
part.
into the eye sockets.
Oh, and the client
The
also
adhesive
wanted
side of
glowy
aluminum
eyes.
tape
Of course.
helps add
Yeah.
reflection. The backs of the lenses were covered with electrical tapes. The wearer isn't blinded with light. What light, you ask? Well, we're making the eyes glow with lights.
Yeah, we are.
Because lights are awesome.
It's
Yeah, they
true.
are.
This is how
When
the
wearing the helmet,
a lot of
your
Iron
eyes
Man
are close to the
cosplayers do their
sockets,
eyes.
So you only need
This is
a small
exactly
slit
how
to
I
see. It's like
showed how to
wearing
do
an
it
Iron
in the
Man
new
mask.
book in
Yeah.
Clone Smith 3.
yeah.
A battery and switch were wired into the helmet. Red LEDs were glued into the eye sockets before the lenses got permanently added.
Yeah.
Aw yeah, glowy eyes are the best. Elastic straps were added to the jaw to
So
help it move.
this is the janky system. I mean, it works, but the when the jaw is attached on its little hingy T-nut attachment, you can't get it on your head. It is too form-fitting.
Yeah.
So the jaw has to be removable until you put it on and then have it go up in there. And I did this with elastics. I'd probably do a different system now, but I mean, it worked.
With the wearer's mouth.
Just something I
and
didn't think
stay in
about.
a closed position when not worn.
It worked.
Like probably magnets or something rad.
That
The
makes
jaw
me
can
think
be pulled
of
away when putting
how
the
it would be
mask
done
on
for a
and
movie.
snapped back into
Yeah.
place.
like we just need it to work for the one
Padding got
shot.
added to the inside of the helmet and the jaw, so the jaw will stay snug to the wearer's chin.
Yeah, I had to add that foam padding down there so it would move with their
The
chin.
mask got clear coated and is now ready to wear.
Look at these
No epic music.
glorious beauty shots.
So those are good beauty
The
shots.
plastic resin worked great for this
The
helmet.
jaw
It's pretty
movement
light
is
and
really
has a little
good.
flexibility, so the horn tips aren't brittle.
I guess the
Don't
elastic
worry,
too is important
I
because
can
it
see
wants
out of the eye
to
slits just fine.
close.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for following along with the Bleach Hollow Mask build. We've got tons of more projects lined up. So
I don't
make
seem
sure to
very
click
excited
subscribe.
about it.
Also, check out our other videos to see Bill
Aw,
make crazy awesome things.
This was back when we used to have a different way to do video overlays on
Back
YouTube.
when YouTube had annotations
Yeah.
back in the day.
So
yeah.
none of those videos can be clicked on anymore.
No, they can't.
It's fine. That's something when you use someone else's video program thing on the internets is that
Yeah.
they will change it someday and your old stuff won't be evergreen anymore, but it's okay.
Thank you all for
See
your
if there's
support, and we'll
bloopers.
see you next time.
Are there bloopers? There's a couple more.
I am recording too.
We have 20 more minutes.
Sweet, that should be enough. All right, time to lift this heavy thing. Oh, it's so heavy. It's so heavy.
That's all you get.
That's not even the heaviest thing we've had to slush cast.
No.
That District 9 gun is definitely by far the heaviest thing.
Yeah, I was just being a whiner.
That was a fun trip down memory lane, Britt.
It held up a lot better than I thought it would.
Yeah.
And like hopefully that encouraged people to try out Pepakura and to mold and cast in a way you've never done before.
Yeah, you covered a lot of techniques there.
Yeah.
Ton of them. Very quickly. Like it blows my mind how much we cruised over a lot of stuff back
In like
then.
a 12-minute video.
Yeah. But
And that has to do with, as well as doing the voiceover later, because you can have your cuts really fast. And be like,
Yep.
and then I did this, and then
Yeah.
I did this. But we really like the way we film now. It's more like in the moment, and it's puttering around the shop, and you capture all the silly stuff as you go. But yeah, I mean, the edit isn't as bad as I remember it. I thought it was fine.
all right. That should wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for taking this trip with us. If you have any questions about that build, let us know in the comments. We'd be happy to get back to you. And thanks, as always, for helping us out, for supporting us over the years, especially this last year. It's been a little bananas. And the support you guys send us literally helps us keep the lights on, so we appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
You guys are the best. Keep it up. Stay safe out there. Take care of one another, and we'll see you next week with some more fun from the shop.